us how to override JavaScript objects. Um, if you haven't watched the previous video, just take some time to watch the previous video to be able to understand how JavaScript object works. Well, if you already know how JavaScript object actually works, I want to just share with you how to override the properties of JavaScript objects. Let's take for instance that we declare a variable person, and then the properties actually has a name and a city, and then we say it's friendly, which is a boolean, and then we say true. Now, like I shared in the previous video, we're going to have the person's name, which is like a place in memory, and then we're going to have the properties as well in memory. Now, if we actually say var James is equals to person, which means the person is going to inherit, it's going to have the names, the city, and then his friendly property as well. What does that mean? It means that if we see this person, which is actually James, as we say James.name, and then if we say, if we just check on James.name, James.name is going to point to the name which is here. And obviously, James might not be Akaris. James might actually be a different name. So what does that mean? Or how do we solve this problem? For instance, if we say James.name equals to James, we already are changing this name from Akaris to James, which means that even this person is equally going to point to the same name, which is Akaris. But obviously, we do not, or probably we do not want that. So what do we do? We can now say var James. This is the most appropriate thing for me to do. We can say var James is equals to dot dot dot. This is actually destructuring. If you don't know about destructuring, let me know in the comments. I'm going to make a new video for destructuring after this course. But for now, this is exactly how you're going to do. You say var James is equals to dot dot dot, which is the destructuring. The copy is destructuring. What it does is it copies whatever is in name. The structuring right now, what we're doing is that we're saying James. We're going to JavaScript is going to create a new memory location for James, and then JavaScript is going to copy whatever is actually in person into James. Then now you can think about this as this very memory location. JavaScript is going to create almost same memory location in different place, which means they are not pointing to the same person, but this name property is going to be changed, which means right now James actually has all this property, but we can say name equals to James, which means we are actually changing when JavaScript creates that new memory location, is going to change that of the name to James. So then we can now console log persons, which is going to print out exactly what we have here. But when we actually console log James, James is just going to point, the name is going to be that of James' name. The city is going to be, if we want to override the city, we can equally override the city here. If we want to check if James is friendly, we can equally override James' friendliness here and all that. So basically, that is how to change the properties and methods of an object in JavaScript. Thank you very much.